I wanna touch on holacracy again. Thanks for bringing it up, Kendall. Holacracy is something that I've been following for a while. Can't say I've ever actually worked in a holacratic environment, so I'm not innately familiar with the whole thing. But each person in the structure, as they get their roles given to them or given to them by themselves, given to them by someone else or given to them by themselves, they define the purpose for themselves. They're allowed to change it whenever they want. If I think my purpose today is different from my purpose tomorrow, I can just edit that. And your purpose is supposed to be self-guiding more than letting other people know what you do. It's just something you can look at it and it's like, all right, that's my purpose. And with your purpose comes the intention that now that you've given yourself a purpose, the other people give you a domain that purpose operates within or under. Almost like a boss, but not really, because these are other people who have given themselves those tasks as well. So you have a purpose that operates under a certain domain, which allows you to give yourself certain accountabilities. Say it's, you know, setting up the Divvy class here at 10 o'clock on Tuesdays. That might be one of your accountabilities, your actual commitments that you commit to do each week. And the way it's structured is that somebody else can come in and they can give themselves different purposes or the same purposes, and it doesn't really interfere with that other person doing it as well. And hopefully they just end up blending into the same types of roles together if that's what they end up doing.
So, I mean, in other words, what you're talking about is an individual taking the initiative to get something done, right?
Absolutely. Yes.
Okay. All right. So and that should be based on established goals. Okay. So and the goal ought to define what the roles are, because an analysis of whatever the goal is will in and of itself define roles. Oh, well, we need this, or we need a programmer here. We need a manager type on this part, right? And if, I mean, my point here is that somebody has to grab a hold of things, okay? And there shouldn't be any hesitance or fear in grabbing a hold of something, all right? And if that person is performing and nobody else is performing, but nobody has a problem with that, they should be encouraged, and they can develop their own program, or sort of eat their own piece of the pie, right?
And anybody can assign a task to themselves in Taiga. Okay, unfortunately you can't really have multiple people, but you can watch a project and become part of it, okay, or a task. The roles in Taiga, we have to set those up to be the primary roles we have, managers, leaders, programmers, whatever. So we need to configure that for the primary role of the person. We can't really give them multiple roles, although they can work on any task. So I think will be consistent with the model.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it doesn't answer the question about how do we determine which tasks are acceptable and within our guidelines.
Right. We have to make rules on that. I mean, the first rule is that a task somebody enters is an individual thing until one person upvotes it. Then it becomes a group thing.
Well, that might be a rule concerning tasks itself, but a rule concerning the organization as a whole, which the task would have to follow, would be more like the strategy that the organization is committed to following. So
Right.
the best way for the holacracy model to work is for everybody to be committed towards a certain strategy. And so once somebody develops a role or an accountability or a task, all they have to ask themselves is, how does this push that strategy forward?
Well, and the thing is someone can insert themselves into a role, and it may turn out that they are not the best qualified person to fill that role. So then the question is, now it's the potential issues are turf issues, right? And you have to be willing to give up to if somebody else can do something better than you can. It's like, hey, welcome, thank you, and then you support that person. Now, these are not rules hard and fast rules that you can impose, but it's an ethos that exists within the organization. Okay, and I mean, I look at the in looking at the document, right, that's being created here, that probably needs to be talked about. Okay, in other words, sort of the accepted, established rules that can't be put into any hard and fast form. It's like the spirit of cooperation, right? I know that, and Ubuntu, the Ubuntu rules, that's probably takes care of a lot of that.
Just a little bit, yeah, quite a bit. You're muted, Jim, if you were talking.
Yeah, that brings up the discussion in the philosophy channel on ScenarioNet, which you might want to partake in. I don't know. And your first, I think we're definitely in line here, and hopefully we'll figure out how we're going to use Tega effectively, and whether we can use it for rewards and bounties and other things is an open issue at this point. We have to look at the capability of assigning points to tasks and
well, how about the first task being completing the document?
Yeah.
Okay. No, I'm serious.
Yeah.
I mean,
I've never seen a document like that. I'm a little lost as to the intent of the document.
I'm with you, Jeff. I am too.
Okay. So, like a month ago, I went in there and started editing the DAO Hub portion of it, and started talking about how are we going to propose this to DAO Hub? How are we going to offer value to people that are part of the DAO? And now that's all blown out of the water. So none of that applies. And, so it becomes more broadly, how do we, bring value to the cryptocurrency community as a whole? So yeah, we definitely need to work on it, flesh it out, or divide it into a few documents and flesh out one of them. I hope to, I want to go back for a second to, I apologize for this, to like perhaps two individuals. One may not be as experienced or a good role, a good person in that role compared to another, and maybe they want to do the same thing. Hopefully it would become evident to the two of them that they're working on the same thing, and maybe they could come to something, an agreement together, like I have these strengths, you have these strengths, maybe we can make more points if we work together this way, so that, you know, because the alternative is like, say it's a website, you know, the alternative is one person's going to do the website and the other person's going to do the website, but only one of them's going to get paid because only one website's going to make it. The other one isn't going to be validated by the other people because it never made it. And so that, you know, so say it's 1,000 points and 1,000 points that this guy hoped to get, but one of them just gets 0. Together, maybe they could each get 700 points.
Yeah, well, couldn't that play out? Look, I mean, if tasks are getting done, right, and they're, I mean, even without oversight by the group at large, if they can demonstrate, you know, if there are two people that are working together and accomplishing tasks, now there may be, you know, they may have some disagreement as to who's added the most value. Okay, that could be a discussion that played out in front. I mean, actually in a Zoom meeting, and a weekly Zoom meeting like this. Okay, so it's sort of like a mediation function. And it doesn't necessarily have to be voting, but it's an expression of you know, it's sort of like, hey, you know, Jeff and Ken are working together, you know, and I'm saying, hey, you know, I feel, you know, Jeff feels like he's providing more than I am, but I kind of feel like, you know, we wouldn't have done this if I hadn't have done this and so forth. And let's throw it back and forth. You know, I really like working with Jeff, but, you know, I'd like to resolve this thing. And what's your opinion? Okay, so then the mediator for that particular issue says, okay, we got 5 minutes to talk about this. All right, put a time limit on it, and you come out. And I think in most cases you're going to walk away with a resolution in that, and you're also going to walk away with a reaffirmation in a positive way of the working relationship and enthusiasm for accomplishing tasks.
Yeah, especially if a mediator stepped forward that ended up being really good at it. Yeah.
Well, yeah, and so I mean, if we had a situation like that in this group right now, it's like, okay, who's going to pick up the role of mediator? Right? I mean, who's running the meeting? I don't know. You know, in our proven secure meetings, it's whoever is running the meeting, you know, they sort of go to that role. They're the ones who say, all right, well, do we have agreement here? You know, and it's not exactly like Robert's Rules of Order, but it's something similar, you know. Okay, we've got something on the table here. Do we have a consensus? Does anybody have a strong opinion? Okay, boom, we're done. Okay, it goes in the chat notes, right? And you go forward.
Sweet, yeah, that's all of these norms and processes need to be documented, and probably, should be part of the current state of the Divvy in the living document. These are the procedures we have in place today, and they're flexible. Okay, groups can use whatever rules or tools they want, but this is the norm for the group.
That brings me to a different subject. when and if this becomes huge, right, Jim? We all hope it does. You don't want 1,000 people in Zoom trying to mediate. We don't want, and somebody was setting up an open source VoIP server, which is accessible from mobile or iPhone or computer or whatever, which would be very cost effective and would also allow people to like make breakout rooms to go meet in different areas, so they're not bothering the main conversation or anyway, it's a VoIP server called Murmur, and you download and install the Mumble app on your phone, and you can just get in and talk on the Murmur server whenever you want. And anyway, like it's something that could be up 24/7 for like literally anybody to get into, and there's no way for them to mess with the server because all they can do is talk. They can't really send visual data.
Yeah. Well, you know, for right now, we have the Divvy lobby, which is, you know, our space, and we're looking. Most of us have been looking at Divvy, at Jitsi, integrating Jitsi. Rudolfo's integrating that into his notary application, and Brent wants to integrate it into his debate.
So, Jim, are you saying Jitsi would Jitsi? Yeah, no, you and I have used it. I actually like it. I think the resolution is better than Zoom. But are you saying that becomes the default medium of record
for synchronous communications? Okay, and you know, as Doug was has always pointed out, asynchronous communication is much more effective, and you create a higher collective intelligence if you respond to a message tomorrow rather than today. And all this immediate media we're using, we should just stop using it. Okay? We have to coordinate and synchronize periodically live.
But when you're talking about very large numbers of people, though, which I think is
exactly
what Jeff was trying to address, that then it becomes more almost like a you know, like or don't like.
Right.
You know,
our only public meeting is this one. Okay, that's it. For now, anyway.
Well, yeah, and
public broadcast during the week. I did 2 this week. 3. The ideal group size is 4.5. If we want to get a collective intelligence, we should work in groups of 4.5 people. And if you go over 10, you know, it really starts, the performance of the group goes down,
right,
significantly.
So could you identify those groups as like the steering group?
No. Bottom up intelligence. You and I, the peer-to-peer. Okay, Jeff and Brent peer-to-peer, and then we get together. This is the way collective intelligence is grown, from the bottom up. There is no steering group. Okay, eventually it gets up to the steering group, or it may have been a steering group. It's any group. You know, it's.
So are you talking about 4.5 people working on a task, or making a simple, narrowly defined decision versus, you know, really broad decision making?
Right. Well, you know, that we have 2 contrasting things. We have the wisdom of the crowd. Okay, and then we have the consensus. Okay, the wisdom of the crowd is spread all over the place, and when you average it, you come out with something good. But nobody's at that average. Okay, everybody's scattered all over the place. It doesn't mean there's any consensus.
Well, I mean, look, if when you're talking about large numbers of people, and I'm going back to the Facebook analogy here, okay, if somebody's got 1,000 friends on Facebook and they put up something that you know, that people can clearly have an opinion about, and they're asked to like it or not like it, right? Okay, so at that point, it comes down to how well defined the question that's being asked is composed. And it's the same thing with the considerate proposals. Okay, I mean, one of the issues with these proposals, as I've looked through them, is some of them are a lot clearer than others. So it starts with clarity of what's being asked.
Yeah.
And
well, here's the thing: these things are put in raw. And it's the responsibility of everybody, not just one person, to provide clarity and the pros and the cons and, you know, what it is. I mean, we're brainstorming, okay, which we're doing a lot of things in one tool, okay, and maybe you can't do them all in one tool, but we are, for now, doing them all in one tool. And, you know, the brainstorming is coming up with ideas or proposals that you want to put before it. And then you need a medium for discussing it and defining it and
visualizing it.
yeah. I mean, you know, and this skill of putting questions into very simple, understandable form, it's almost an art. You know, I mean, it's, but, you know, the principle is, I don't know, you know, I mean, it's got to be whatever the issue is, has to be understandable. If it's you're going to get consensus from a large community, it has to be something that everybody understands, yeah, so that they can take a clear picture or tease out the nuances at least.
Right. And, you know, and the intention was that in meetings like this, you know, we'll have consider it open, we'll be discussing the issues, we'll be fleshing them out and giving our sentiment.
Yeah, and this is where I kind of see Brent's idea of the debate, but maybe it kind of evolves into how we eventually go to doing proposals, right? So you want to do a proposal, you kind of go into this talking document or this living, you know, and so you go and there's the forum is you have a mediator, the host, and then you have, you know, the person that wants to bring up the proposal, say I have this thing, and you have someone that is kind of like the one that scrutinizes a little bit, and you have a record of someone taking notes, because in Jitsi you could do live sharing in the document, and so maybe someone who comes into the group that's really good at highlighting the topics, like, okay, that was a really good point, that's a really good point, and they could frame it in such a way. So then that goes into the larger group for people to vote on. And so like, here's the proposal, let's vote on that. So that's how we craft the proposals through talking, documentation, and then it gets to the larger group to vote on eventually, you know, as we move along.
I like to add, what's kind of neat about that is, I mean, obviously we could use it. We really don't need a live debate amongst ourselves, although it's just another way to have just a general discussion. Although if we had the couple of easy tools, we could experiment with it.
Yeah.
And I think what we can do is like some live time visualization, like thinking about like putting consider it on the side, live time, so people can literally vote at any given moment on something depending on what is posted up there in the consider it, and then we can kind of see it gauge. That's just one way. What about a polling feature? I mean, these are all there. Everything's a brainstorm right now, but I think it's really just come down to formulation of ideas and letting the cream rise to the top.
Well, we have to flesh these things out. And when we have a cluster of people that are interested in working on a project, we should schedule a meeting. Okay, and a good way to schedule meetings is with Doodle. Doodle is a great tool for scheduling meetings. And then you put the Doodle link in the task, and people can sign up for it, or you put it in the Slack, and anybody can sign up for it. But these are, tasks that have filtered to the top here. And so the team that's going to work on it needs to get a consensus as to what they want to build. Okay, and so having these meetings, and they're private Zooms, but you can, broadcast them, and people can put Divvy up to weigh in their opinion from the public while the live during the broadcast if we want. We can sort of get the best of both worlds. We can see how the people we know and trust feel, and we can see what opinions other people have brought to the table. And at the same time, we can, that we're doing it, we can edit the project description to reflect the consensus of the group.
Yeah, and I'd like to add, I contacted Xander, who's another person. He did the moderation from Rushkoff interview yesterday. So I contacted him yesterday. He was interested in the debate and, kind of the mission and the intention on that. But in the process, he has somebody else who's involved in collaboration and debate. So it's kind of like we got maybe another group of people to look at it, and then maybe we can work on that together and just through the division of labor and claim that down if we're at that consensus to just go ahead with the debate.
Schedule a Zoom for the debate project that's on the consider it, and flesh it out. Okay?
Yep.
We're not going to flesh out all these projects on this one weekly meeting. So we have to sort of arrange separate Zooms, and of course you can always hold the meetings in the Divvy lobby, which is my Zoom room, or you can make a separate Zoom room. If you're not already a manager in my Zoom, I can make you a manager in my Zoom.
Hey, what do you guys think about? It's kind of like I'm trying to get a handle on the time and value. What do you think about paying people to come to the meeting if we do a couple of things like sign up in advance or just show up? I mean, and pay the people that are here that have signed up and have agreed to join, so we show the value in their time.
Absolutely. I mean, we're giving Griff Divvy dollars for his participation. Okay, because and we have assigned him a role. So as long as he fills that role, he'll get it repeatedly, and it could go up if his participation is high.
Okay, so Jim, does that mean actually creating Divvy tokens on Ethereum?
Testnet. Ethereum testnet.
Yeah, Jeff's already doing that, but
Oh, okay, you're doing that.
Yep.
Oh, okay, all right.
That's why I'm asking everybody for their public keys so I can make a trustless wallet. But like theoretically, Griff has earned tokens, but functionally he needs to give us his keys, his address for us to send the tokens.
I'm going to put him in here for 500.
And to answer your question, Brent, that's what I was proposing when I mentioned we could just do a Google form and just put that link in the chat at the beginning of these meetings so people could just go fill out that Google form stating that they were here at the meeting, which would allow them to get, 25 tokens or whatever it was.
Yeah, I was just kind of wondering. I see that 1,000 figure, but there's obviously more people than us three.
But
So
that's for a whole month.
What's
No,
that?
1,000 is for a month, not just one task.
Yeah, exactly. But I'm just trying to figure out, I'm just trying to figure out the system. Not the game, the system.
Absolutely.
Figure it
Well,
out.
that's where we're at right now in this discussion, actually, is, the living document, the clear parts of the living document is that we need to figure this out. That's what's clear in that document is that we need to look through these Web 2.0 tools, and we need to figure out what works and what doesn't, and then we need to figure out what process we're going to use. I mean, we were just talking about considerate. What process are we going to use in using considerate? Like, these are things that we need to determine so the DAOs that come along in the future can use our process. And not only that, but our process is what will be like coded over to the social system when it becomes codable, this scenario. So like the entire thing is, it's an end goal of having a DAO which operates, with scenario social contracts involved to cover the contingency planning that smart contracts couldn't necessarily cover. A DAO that will last forever, so to speak, hopefully, right? And so this DAO, each of us might have different details about that DAO that we'd like to see implemented. Like, I'd like to see microtasking and holacratic model, and Jim wants to make sure that we have the networking and the value there. You know what I mean? Like, we all have our own goals. But at the end of the day, what we've boiled it down to at this point is we got to figure out the tools and the processes that we're going to use. And right now we're just doing
it's fairly simple. Where we have consensus, we collaborate. Everything is done voluntarily here, and we have to have whatever contracts we have in whatever teams or groups we're in, are by consensus. They're voluntary. There's no control put over them. And if the project can move forward, it moves forward. Now, what support it gets from the overall Divvy depends on really the community, the task managers and the essentially and ultimately the vote of the communities in the Divvy, if it gets that far. But
Jim, could I mean, are you talking about the document right now?
Well, unfortunately, there's a lot not in the document that is, we've sort of adopted as practices and principles for, the leadership of the Divvy, and exactly how that process works is not clearly laid out.
Well, but and that should be in the document,
Right.
correct?
And
Okay.
as you were saying, fixing the document is a top priority, and I have to somehow be in less meetings so I can spend more time working on it.
Well, Jim, I got to tell you, you know, I've worked with you on a lot of documents at this point, okay? And I think you've put plenty into this document, all right? And I think this document needs a serious editing at this point, okay? And I mean, I went into this, a day ago or so, and I just started reading through and you know, looking at it just purely as editing punctuation and you know, simple grammar and so forth. And the document needs a serious, you know, combing through just to resolve that. Now, you go from there. I mean, that's probably the last thing that gets done in a document. But the other is that there are certain themes that are repeated over and over again in this document, and there are other themes, mainly the reward function. In other words, that which is going to really get somebody's interest, okay? You know, how am I going to get something out of this? What's my reward going to be, and so forth. And if this document is essentially laying out, creating an outline for the platform for managing projects in any DAO, right? Which I think is what you're trying to do, right? Correct? Okay, so
Yes.
so this document is the foundation document for creating a platform for essentially managing projects through to completion in the DApp environment, correct?
Yeah.
So, you know, my point.
We're not, you know, we're not specifying a hierarchical management structure, okay, for the Divvy overall. Okay, within organizations, there will be other structure, like within Proven Secure as part of the Divvy. Proven Secure will have its management structures that it uses. But
well, if it's assigned a task,
right.
it gets to do it its own way.
Right. Now, the colony community will use their structure.
Absolutely.
Okay. And, you know, and if, you know, if the Divvy or the Proven Secure is going to, you know, delegate, you know, a pool of ETH to, or Divvy, whatever, to what Proven Secure is doing, okay, it'll be based on its confidence in that management structure.
Sure.
The colony based on its confidence in that management structure. Okay.
But for the purposes of
really,
this,
it's really a competition of different organizational structures that we're setting up here.
well, yeah. Look, I mean, if there's a set of tasks or a goal, and there's the tasks are clearly defined and the rewards are significant, you're going to have any number of organizations that are going to want to jump in and do that task, right? Because they're going to get something for it, okay? And tell me if I'm wrong, but I think the original idea here was to create tasks or goals that could be accomplished that would provide value to to the token holders of the DAO, the one that's in trouble right now, right? In other words, a startup platform or a funding platform. I mean, that's what the DAO was or is, correct?
Well, that's
Not
not
really.
That's not what we are so much. I mean, yes, it's a funding platform. We're using that aspect of it as well, but that's not what it is primarily. It's not, it's not an investment platform. We're not using it that way, and the token holders have very limited capability when it comes to conflict resolution.
So what was the original idea here, though? I mean, you're talking about getting DAO funding. The DAO, and the DAO token holders, they were interested in a platform for investing in projects that would presumably make them money, right?
Yes, and
No,
the fund.
no, it wasn't.
Okay, Jeff disagrees. What?
No, DAO Hub, the website which put up the main launch page, said all that, and so Wall Street Journal and everybody else heard that. But the DAO was nothing like that. The DAO was just simply a smart contract, which Slockit would hope to propose to get some money. Yes, and because of that initial expectation, it just kind of went out of hand. When the contract got deployed and everybody started hearing this is a VC fund or trust fund or whatever, that wasn't actually true in its fullest sense of the word, and it was just what many people expected. One of the first disagreements that me and Jim had when we first met was, we're supposed to be able to make money off this. And I was like, well, people that invested probably hope to make money off this. There is nothing in the contract that says you will. There's certain words in there that infer that you will, like they called one of the tokens reward tokens, which would infer, if you read the code, that you'd somehow get a reward from somewhere. There's nothing like that in the contract.
Right.
Like, if Slockit made $20 million to go develop the USN, that doesn't mean that they ever have to give us anything. They can even promise to allow the DAO to tweak the percentage of income from 1% to 5%, like that was part of the proposal.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
there's nothing that we could force them to do to make that happen.
Mm-hmm.
I think the issue here is that we're on very slippery ground here in terms of being a cooperative and supporting business. Okay, there's two things. The Divvy is about supporting cooperative action. It's not about making money. Okay, the fact that you can use it to make money is something we generally want to minimize. Okay, and this brings me to an important point I wanted to bring up in this meeting earlier, which was Doug Rushkoff's advice to us last night, as the first thing we have to focus on is onboarding people. That what we're doing here is coming from left field. People are going to think it's all kinds of things that it's not, and they're not going to understand it. And in onboarding people, and he put onboarding as a top priority. And I think we have to really seriously consider everything, all of his advice.
Yeah, but in order to onboard people, they have to understand what the value is. And
yes, and we have to teach them.
Yeah, a document written.
Well, okay, but look, are you selling an ideology or are you selling a platform where people can get benefits?
I'd say tools for the social aspect.
Yeah, one of the weaknesses of the DAO, which is the catalyst for this document to even exist was, yeah, the contract's out there, but how do people communicate? How do people discuss or argue strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats? How do people determine whether this is going to be a profitable investment in case it was a VC fund?
Okay,
Determine that. Like,
you got to stop right there. Kendall is certainly going to be interested in getting funding, but Doug's advice to us was to be very clear that the Divvy is not a place to come and get rich quick. Okay, and he's talking about community here, not investors. Okay, there's two different stories that we have to hold here. And the AMP is not going to make you rich. Okay.
I've been arguing
I
all
shouldn't say that. No, but it's not. That's not its purpose. Its purpose is equitable amplification of messages.
Well, but
that's
yeah,
its purpose.
right. But you were talking. I think that I understand. Clearly, you're not trying to create a situation for speculation, right?
Absolutely.
Okay, which is what the DAO. I think a lot of people got into that because they were essentially currency speculators. Okay, but the platform you're talking about here would seem to me to be oriented towards philanthropic activity.
Exactly.
Okay, and okay, so it's about decision-making, a collective decision-making process to achieve certain social goals. Okay, I mean, if the Altracoin, right, model, Jim, could fit in here very well. In other words, it could be a platform to provide certainty with regard to giving to certain projects, right? And
absolutely, that would fit under the category of if I can get this to work, applications of Divvy tools for cooperative applications beyond community support. We are only about community support, period.
I mean, there's value in that, but some of the things that we could do would be cross-functional beyond this project. There's value in that, but if you tie it to,
well, every project needs what we're collaborating on. It's
absolutely.
Like the Minds program. He's at a loss now. He doesn't know how to he doesn't know how to manage it now that it's not his only thing. Now that he has a community, how are decisions made? He's asking all the questions. What we're offering is a toolbox to do it. And we have tools we use today and the tools we're building for the future.
Yeah,
but we're collaborating on finding tools to use. And that's what this is about. Collaboration tools we want to use.
Well, I mean, what you're really saying is, how complete, how comprehensive do you want this toolbox to be? I would say that if you're talking about a platform, then the goal should, and in reading the document, in other words, DAO. This is a DAO of DAOs, right? That this is a methodology it's an open source platform that can be downloaded, all right, as the framework that any number of groups can use to manage whatever their project is according to the consensus mechanisms that are built into the platform. Okay, and I mean, some of that is going to be taken over with smart contracts, social contracts, but it's also using all these off-the-shelf consensus tools and so on, and it puts them all together in one package. Okay, so if you've got, again, getting back to philanthropy, you have 50 philanthropies that are all involved. They're all directed in a certain direction, and they're sitting there and they're saying, well, we all agree about this, but and we understand that we have to do all of this online, and there's real power out there, and there are cryptocurrencies that we could apply to our project here and so forth, but nobody really knows how to do it, and somebody pipes up and says, well, I was looking at this Divvy platform, and it would seem to answer all the questions we're talking about here. Okay, and so I mean, this is a goal to get to a platform that is like that. So they go there and they look at it and say, oh yeah,
Hey, Kendall, this is a deliverable right here, out of the package with a toolbox. And I'll give you an example. I kind of come from like a little bit of manufacturing, a little bit of wholesale distribution, and like I went back to Syracuse, New York, it was Carrier, Transicold. And they kind of broke out with the different distributor networks that they had and kind of set up a consortium for the distributors to kind of, commingle and come up with programs from that aspect on distributor level across the U.S. And, this is the kind of platform that they could utilize in a situation like that for making group decision making for that. And you could certainly allow a debate and consider it right alongside with it in live time. And you could actually, maybe a major corporation could, get some tokens and distribute it out to incentivize people in this regard. Or maybe they can come up with their own Carrier Transicold tokens for.
Well, I mean, yeah, I mean, right. I mean, so through the Divvy platform, you can, I use the example, charities want to promote the digging of wells in developing countries, or choose a country in Africa, right? And the goal is to build 100 wells, and so under using the Divvy platform, all of that that project should be able to be managed, and value or rewards distributed for work done. I mean, nonprofits, people get paid, because they have to put food on the table. Okay, so every project like that, there needs to be compensation. Okay, so people can live, and the platform should provide for the creation of cryptocurrencies to enable the aspirations of whatever the the project is.
And we're also have the long-term aim that the Divvy compatible tokens will be tradable so that projects can support each other. Okay, in other words, if you create a Kendall token, it's worth nothing, but if I buy 100 for Divvy dollars, that's going to give it some value.
Well, and that's how you get that. And Brent was, he was talking about. So now you have this company, right? a corporation that wants to be part of it, right?
Right.
And so, I mean, this is where you create the cryptocurrency and you get the sponsor, and they drop $5 million into the wallet or fund, whatever, that essentially becomes the underpinning of the purposeful currency that that you're creating to you know, it's like the fuel for the project. And yeah, so, and why you know, all that functionality built into the Divvy platform.
Right. So basically, you just take the Divvy code, you split, you will eventually split proven secure, have your own proven coin, okay, which is part of the value now in the Divvy that you've added, okay, and you know what value it represents is up to proven secure, but it's almost you know, it could be used as a certification of security or whatever, but then they're not tradable. Never mind. That's that's tickets. You know, general idea. It's like Rio reputation. It's not really money. Which,
well, I mean, I think you know, all of the things that you're trying to create, like with free trust, right?
Right.
With
right.
with
Essentially,
the whole reputation side. I mean, this is a perfect. You know, you do things. I mean, I had this discussion with somebody else. I've been in the real estate business for many years, and part of the fallout of the whole meltdown in 2008 was that they came up with a bunch of regulations that basically short-circuited a lot of professional relationships, and that made things work well. Okay, I mean, today real estate brokers and lenders can't talk directly to appraisers, and the appraiser, and so the cost of an appraisal has about doubled, and you can't get appraisals done in a timely manner because nobody will commit to the time, and that just blows up contracts left and right. You either have to put the dates out so far that it may you know, it may not work for some people. You know, so these are just practical aspects of well, I don't know.
Eliminate
I got a little lost.
It eliminates the chaos that we've seen already, including in the DAO, but in other, I don't care if it's two-party politics, there's just a lot of inherent solutions. You know, which all kind of leads to me, I'll hold that one, never mind, go ahead.
well, the onboarding
Document.
considered. Okay, we have projects that need to be considered. We have the document.
Now,
What I failed to do today was, because I was late, was set up the agenda and put notes in it. What I plan to do, if there is a consensus, is use the same agenda document every meeting, okay, since we have history in Google Docs, and as we have the meeting, we should all help put notes in the agenda that we of important points that are made, and any action items should be in red or in the action item section.
Yeah, so this is essentially what the format that we use for our general meetings at Proven Secure. And it works out well because you have a record. I mean, so we've got a situation here now, Jim, where you're talking about we've got the Zoom chat, right, which is one place to record questions about or you know really about the participation. But you're suggesting that the Google invitation document will have the agenda and it'll contain the action items and so forth. Is that what you're suggesting?
Yes, and you know, similar to what we do in Proven Secure, the chat from the Zoom would be pasted at the bottom of the agenda.
Okay.
Have you figured out how to do that?
Yeah.
Okay.
My Zoom is set up so it always saves the chat.
All right.
And you can save the chat yourself. There's a save chat function in Zoom.
Right. Well, let me ask this. You know, again, I don't know whether everybody's gone into the document, but I put you know, there's a bunch of suggestions and everything in there that I put in there, and the first one, you know, I just basically said in the very beginning, you know, I've done a lot of suggesting. I hope I haven't stepped on anybody's toes, but, you know, I really think that this document is at a point where it's really in need of some serious editing, okay? And I'll just put it out there. I'm willing to do that. I was, you know, maybe going to suggest that I do that together with Jeff, not for any other reason than, you know, I spent a whole day with Jeff troubleshooting a problem, and so I know him, and I know how he works and his capabilities, and you know, I've watched his participation in this document now for a couple of months. So I don't know. I'm just putting a proposal out there. I'm willing to put in the time. You know, Jim can vouch for, you know, my editing capabilities. Anyhow, I'm offering my services there.
Yeah.
I'd be willing to do that with you.
I would suggest that we get Rao to do a review of it also, and I would suggest that we hold off still, because, you know, my priority now is to get stuff added to the document, and you know, I'll complete that by Sunday. So I don't think the rewrite should start until Monday.
Okay.
Are you thinking that there shouldn't be a separate document for people onboarding to discuss?
Oh yeah, we need the onboarding document, and you know, we need to put that on the on the website. And I also wanted to discuss the website a little bit. You want to do that now?
Yeah, absolutely. I need to go use the bathroom. I'm going to mute, but I'll be right back.
Okay. Where is the website? So I like the title that he gave this, which is Toolkit for Interoperable Humans.
What's weird is you can access it, I can't.
What? DivvyDAO.org?
I tried that earlier and last night. It wasn't open. Let me try again. It's weird. Let me try.
So I have to fix this link to get rid of the first 10 minutes of that video. First 10 minutes are like a waste of time.
Yeah, I go there. I get a server not found.
The Rushkoff fireside chat. I added a version of that to take out that dead time in the beginning. There's like 15 minutes or whatever.
Oh, okay. So they can go to the regular link now, and the link I gave them.
No, I guess I have to talk to Christian to put it up because I don't have like that capability.
Yeah, I've been passing out the link with the timestamp.
Okay. But yeah, so I'll make sure that he knows about that so he could put that up because yeah, first 15 minutes is really rough.
Yeah.
Also, too, I was gonna suggest, as I've been thinking of, I could help, and this is stuff that I already do, but as far as the Divvy, do what I already kind of doing with scenario, like edit highlights of these meetings. There's like really good segments that we could use, and then like morph that into little bit. I like doing like little graphics. Like I did the fireside chat graphic right there that they're using, and do simple blogs so that helps that onboarding of new people. Like, oh, go check out our blog, and we have like this good simple message, and then check out this document.
Pleasing to the eye, it's all about presentation.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I started 12 minutes 11 seconds here. So oops, wrong tab. Where the heck's the DivvyDAO?
Notice I have
this is our public front here. I'm not sure this, this is a cool image that Jeff put behind it, but I think it's a little distracting. I don't know what the rest of you think.
You know what I like about it? And I don't know, I usually see things in HTML with a link going linear, but man, it sure would be cool if each one of those could be a link to associates or members or content or whatever. I don't know if there's a way to change things around with the helix here.
That's the plan, is to sort of have a graph of the community, and when you can click on the different organizations in the community, and or sort of exploded into the whole graph of But
I think that's a great idea, Brent, and I've been trying to implement that with our proven secure company diagram, okay, with all of the different parts of our company, to have it clickable boxes, basically, linked to anywhere you use it as a navigation tool. Now, what you're talking about is a tool for contacting, the people you need to contact, right? The groups, right?
There's value in it.
Yeah.
And go ahead.
Well, no, and I mean, the question of whether it should be a background or not, is it distracting? I like it. I think it's kind of cool, but I could see where you don't want to have that always back there. It's in like the entry view into the website, but when you scroll down, you scroll out of it. And maybe it could be, when you're talking about the functionality of, as groups come on, you build the actual interoperable diagram with all of the different nodes, right, representing the groups, and you make that. You use that for all your links, right?
If we could get help in time, it's probably not anything right now, but you could do that with members that join to their profiles. We could do it with Brainstorm, like starting off with the considerate stuff. And it's just another way to get people to that information if they see it. Some people might just stumble across the website and start clicking at things. Other people might be looking for something. So.
Well, yeah, and the graphic, okay, the diagram. I'm a very visual person, and I created a company diagram, and then I used the diagram to reorganize all of the documents that in our company. Okay, and it. After I had the document, it was just a matter of getting a couple of other people in a Zoom meeting, and we reorganized the whole thing in about an hour. And up until that point, it had been a rather daunting task. Okay, so I could see the same thing here. We're going to have many organizations coming, and so you could create the navigation document, diagram, let's say, right? Is that sort of what you're talking about?
Well, it's kind of like molecular structure here, with each link going to the other binding molecule or whatever.
Yeah.
And people could just, people can just kind of take a look around, and each little box or a line it could say something in there. It could just be a link, and they could click on it. It's just a way to take things away from the linear perspective and just send it out molecularly with links.
Yeah, and make it a shortcut, so that again, this whole thing it's a platform to enable human endeavor.
It could be categorical, is what it could be.
Well, yeah, that's right. And it would grow. It will just grow, and the categories will get added as people use it.
Yeah, as links come out and content, that could be another. It could just keep going if there's an easy way to feed it into.
So if we create the format, okay, anybody who wants to link to that. This is what we would call the resource document, a diagram, basically, right? the functionality is in the platform itself. The resources, which are the collaborations between groups, right? Isn't that what the resource is? The most fundamental resource of the Divvy?
I would say it's for the coalescing effect, but also to provide the tools for people. Just need a resource of where to go. It's kind of like you go to your toolbox, you know where your tools are. They need, that isn't there for the DAO. I mean, they did a great job, but it was like through the mist wallet and kind of piecemeal. You had to really find it. What you need to do is put it all in one place and be the go-to, or lead by example. It's just
yeah. And this is the universal toolbox you're talking about. I mean, it's if you're doing a charitable endeavor that relates to something having to do with music, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, that cluster is over here in the diagram, right?
Mm-hmm.
You go, and this is all of these are all of the nonprofits that are involved with music and and then you say, well, gee, we're going to need some financing, right? So over here in another place is that cluster of organizations that fund, right? Or fund music endeavors. Okay.
You could have a category on solar and go the whole nother gamut.
The whole, the everything, any kind of endeavor. But rather than, I don't know. I mean, you can do a Google search too, right?
Can I interrupt for half a second? I don't like that idea. I like a lot of it, but I don't like the implementation. What you're talking about has been solved for years with taxonomy, and taxonomy-based categorization is the way to go here, because it doesn't take much data, and if you wanted to visualize it the way that Brent mentioned before, it still can be done. You don't need a whole lot of other additional functionality. And if you did have a whole lot of other additional functionality, it would just make the whole thing slower, rather than a process that'd be enjoyable to take part in. Can I share my screen? Let's see. Where is that?
The middle green, right about where your middle of your chest is.
No, I want to know what I want to share first.
It's usually best to just share one of your desktops. But
Desktop.
Oh, I haven't had any sustenance today except for one cup of coffee. So I'm gonna have to step out.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to probably break here.
Well, I guess we've been on a really long time, almost 3 hours.
Well, anyway, the 0xbb9.com website, if you go to the hash mark, I can just put a link in chat. The hash mark is the sitemap, and a sitemap is something almost all websites should have anyway, so that Google can crawl it the way that the web developer intended for it to be crawled. And I'm going to put a link right here. Boom. There's a link to the sitemap, and the sitemap uses taxonomy category system, and you can't actually get to any of the data unless you click on one of the eyeballs in the sitemap. The eyeball will actually bring you to the page space, project space group, or whatever you're actually looking at. But the navigation happens inside the boxes. And you'll see as you drill down in navigation, the folder or category one level up just becomes a box one level up from the main screen that you're looking at now. There we go, share screen. Boom, 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 desktop. Share screen. Okay, I'm sharing my screen now. All right, so let's go back to the home. So yeah, the sitemap. Let's say we had this organized. I was organizing it for the DAO. This was a solution for when the DAO had no organization, and this is like trusted 2.0 websites. I don't know anything about the DAO, but I came here and now I want to know which websites are trustworthy. So I click on here and that just gives me a list of trustworthy websites. And people could then register trustworthy websites here. It just becomes that part of the entire thing. You'll notice that some of my main categories are also the main navigation up here. So if I went to say DivvyDAO Cooperative Toolkit, my site home becomes one level up, and I can just go back into my DivvyDAO Cooperative Toolkit. And I'm not actually going into any of these. I'm just navigating that structure. And I thought I had some more already worked on. Yeah, it's just the way. This is how the crawlers work, but it's also the solution to how you'd want one of those dynamic pages that looks more like the background to DivvyDAO.org would work as well. It's just taking, say, a name and its relationship to another entity, and then just mapping that out algorithmically.
So, Jeff, is this is your unilateral effort to put up a Divvy, or well, is this for DAO or this is for?
It was for the DAO. There's about 20 people from the DAO that have come in. The most value that it gained for me was I was able to, get the emails of the most active community members in the DAO. But more than that, it was intended to be a place where people could argue proposals. This was before Considerate was developed.
Okay.
And read about proposals. Again, at that time, the only thing there was a forum, and the forum was inundated with, like some of the forums were like hundreds and hundreds of posts long, with 90% of them not really adding a whole lot to the conversation. And this was intended to be something that would actually vet the users, so their contributions couldn't just be anything. It had to be within their fields of expertise. So this was going to have, well, it does have the taxonomy system where people attribute qualities to themselves, skills and experience, and then as people wanted tasks done, it would feed those tasks to those people who had those skills.
So